Welcome back to The Blind Perspective. So far we have talked a lot about my perspective of albinism, but today I thought we would do something a little bit different. Today we're going to talk a little bit about an outsider's view and perspective of albinism. Today we have with us my friend Lauren. Now, Lauren is what we like to joke and call my CNI person. Those of you with albinism probably have one of these token CNI persons in your life. And she is mine, so she has been with me for many shopping adventures, many times where she has saved me from many catastrophes.
Getting run over by a car,
Getting run over by a car, stepping off of curves, falling downstairs, walking into the wrong bathroom, all these important things in life, So, Lauren and I have known each other for 10 years, and so the first thing I thought we would talk about is the beginning. So, when you first met me, what did you know about albinism?
Almost nothing. I knew there were albino squirrels and maybe other animals, and that was it. And I knew they were white. That was all I knew. So when I met you, I had no idea you had albinism. I just saw another person that had been coming to church. That was all I knew.
She's like, ooh, she needs to get out in the sun.
No, it didn't even occur to me.
Really?
Really. It did not occur to me at all. We have other people in our church. I know other people with white hair, so I just figured, she's got white hair. She's probably about the same age as Mrs. Coates. It's just another person.
At what point did you find out how truly old I was? I guess probably those fellowships we had.
Probably the young adult fellowships, probably somewhere in there.
She was a little confused. She's like, so how old are you?
I think somewhere at one of those fellowships you mentioned how old you were, I think. Probably that first fellowship you actually kind of told us a little bit of your story. I think that's where I maybe for sure found out that you had albinism.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that sounds familiar. I feel like I should know what that is. Because I hadn't exactly heard that word. I'd heard albino, but not albinism. But I was like, okay, that sounds like they're connected. I did know that you had, you were legally blind. I knew that. Because I had heard somebody say something about being legally blind. I thought, well, she gets around all right. So, okay, whatever. One thing I did notice connected with the albinism when we first met, and we had our very, very short conversation. Literally, hi, I'm Lauren. Nice to meet you. I'm Jaya. That was it.
It was very short and to the point.
Neither of us are particularly outgoing people at first. So it was very short, and we didn't know what else to do, so we just moved on, and that's probably one of 2 handshakes that we've ever... Maybe 3.
Have we had more than one?
I think
that's the only one I remember.
I think there was probably one more, but I don't remember, I don't know.
We would have greeting time at church, so there was probably a couple more times where...
Possibly. And I feel like there was one occasion, maybe 2, where we were just kind of goofing off and like, oh yes, we gotta shake hands.
Oh yeah, I think, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, other than that first one, that was probably the only actual. But yeah, so when we had that first conversation, if you call it a conversation, I noticed your eyes kind of moved around a little bit. And I was like, okay, that's a little different, but whatever. That must be connected with her not seeing well.
No wonder she can't see. Her eyes are moving around.
And I just kind of moved on with life. It didn't really faze me or anything. It was just, I don't know.
At what point did you start to figure out where my level of vision was?
Probably just mostly observing and figuring out, okay, she did not see that, or she did see that. Like, okay, so one time, this young people's fellowship we had one time, we played Pictionary. I think it's Pictionary. You blindfold yourself, or someone does it for you, and you try to draw pictures while you can't see. Well,
this was blind Pictionary.
Yes.
Normal Pictionary, you don't have to be blind.
That's true. That's why I was confused. Okay, yes. So, blind Pictionary. Well, Miss Legally Blind over here says, I don't need to be blindfolded. I can't see anyway. Which kind of confused me. I was like, okay, I don't know. I didn't know you very well at that point. I mean, we'd probably had a few conversations, and, you know, it had been several months, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, I think
you'd
so.
been around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't quite know what to think of that. Of course, Miss Gale insisted on blindfolding you anyway.
I know. I can't believe it.
Which, knowing what I know now, that was a good decision.
Yeah, it was.
At what point did I figure out what... Yeah, just kind of over time, I knew you couldn't drive. But then...
I can. They just won't let me drive.
Yeah, but also kind of early on, because you couldn't drive, you and I went together to a friend's house, and you were helping her with writing postcards or letters or addressing envelopes or something. So, okay, she can write, but she can't drive. And I guess just kind of from there, just observing things, and every once in a while, like I've asked, can you see such and such? Or you've mentioned, oh, look at that. And I'm like, wait, what? You see the stars up there? Okay, those are really tiny.
Well, it's because they're little, like, specks of light. It's not like I see little actual, like, ching, 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 5-point stars.
Well,
not that that's what they look like either.
But see, it's just, like, moments like these where it's, like, generally speaking, I think, usually gauge what you can and can't see at this point. You know, pretty much a decade later.
Yeah.
But, there are still times when she surprises me.
Are there anything you remember, like, any specific times where, like, just for source of anecdotes of funny times where I have thought I saw something and then it really wasn't? Or, you know, something like that where my vision has created funny moments? Other than the umbrella situation,
other than that one.
She was the friend I was shopping with.
Yes.
When I saw the tube socks that I thought was an umbrella.
It's kind of funny when you see mannequins. And you're like, oh, person? Nope, that's not a person.
Listen, they have those things dressed so realistically.
They do.
It's terrible.
Every once in a while, in my peripheral vision, I do. Okay.
Yeah, and they're like right in the middle of the clothes area, and so you're just walking along, and then you're like, oh, that's not a person. Oh, there was the time in Walmart where I almost like ran head on into that lady.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, I think it must be because of the depth perception, maybe, or is it because maybe colors kind of blend in?
I think colors kind of blend in because if I remember correctly, she was wearing darker clothes. And like in shopping aisles, it's like there's so much going on the aisles. There's just so much coming in sensory wise that like it was kind of just like, and then it's like when I finally realized there's a person there, it was kind of like almost a slow reaction of like, oh, that's a person. And then it was kind of like, wait, now what do I do?
Which to me was weird because I'm watching all of this happen, and she's going along with your cart, I think. You had a cart. And the other lady was walking toward her as well. They were both moving. So I don't know what the other lady was, I don't know what her situation was. But she didn't seem like she was seeing Jai either. So I'm seeing these two people who are obviously not seeing each other yet, coming towards each other. I'm like, what do I do? There's no time to, like, say anything. So that was, I've many instances like that where it's like, well, it's happening. Oh, well.
Fortunately, I did not run into the lady. I don't remember
no.
I think I swerved out of the way.
Yes.
And technically, I was on the wrong side of the road. So, I mean, I should have been on the right side and I was on the left side. But see, I was on the left side because I was looking for something that was along that aisle. And I was walking, and that's part of the reason I think why I was distracted, because I was kind of looking to the left because I was looking at the aisle because I knew what I was looking for would be on that side. But I didn't know how far down the aisle. So I was like, do. And that's why I was on the incorrect side of the road. Yeah. If you were to try to answer the question, what is your perspective of albinism? What would you maybe say?
One thing that would be part of my perspective is I wish there was some way to trade eyeballs for a day. Though I've gotten somewhat of an idea of what you can see, how you see, I still don't know because I'm not you.
Right.
On the other hand, it would probably be really unfair to only trade for one day, because then you would have seen what it's like, and then you'd have to go back to
being blind.
Yes.
It's a shame.
Which on the one hand, it would be interesting to see if that would be like a sensory overload because of all the extra details.
Actually, it would probably be like, oh, that's what that's actually supposed to be. Interesting. Do you notice other people's reactions or like anything like that when we are out and about?
Sometimes people will expect or assume that you're seeing things and you're not. So, facial expressions, hand gestures, that kind of thing, when someone's talking to you, you don't always realize that because they may be looking at you, but you can't tell that necessarily because either they're kind of in your peripheral or they're too far away. So you're just like doing your thing, and they're like not necessarily like, oh well, she's not seeing me, I guess I won't talk, but it's just kind of like, I'm just like, she doesn't know you're talking to them. So sometimes I will get your attention and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so is trying to talk to you, or whatever. Sometimes I'll do that. I think also when people like show you things, sometimes they don't take into account, well, it depends. People who don't know you are just like, oh, hey, look at this and that, and that's it. They don't know that they should probably hand you their phone so you can zoom into the picture, or that you need just a little bit longer time to look at it and see it. And typically you're not like, wait, hang on, I didn't see that. You're just like, oh yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. I do a lot of...
Because you don't want to like make them feel bad, I'm figuring.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's not like that big of a deal that I didn't fully see whatever it was. If it's something I really needed to see, I would, but most of the time it's kind of like, it's like whatever. Or, because like sometimes if I look at a picture that somebody's showing, it's like I see some general information, but it's not like it's life altering that like I didn't really see it. So I'm just like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It is funny to me, the, and this is what's funny. I'm not a person who nods my responses. And that's probably why, because I don't do nodding because I can't interpret nodding. We have a particular friend that is notorious for nodding her answers to me. And I will just be looking at her, waiting for her to respond, and she'll just be looking at me like, what's wrong with you? I've already answered the question. And I'm like, and I'll answer the questions like, I said no, and I was like, Well, I can't see you nodding your head. She's getting better at it. She'll catch herself now and like nod her head and then be like, no, it's fine. And like,
yeah, I still do that too. I'm still learning. That is one of the things I have been learning, is to answer or give directions or whatever verbally, as opposed to with my hands or just nodding, because sometimes I'll nod and she can't, like she said, she can't see that. Or I think it was when we went to Disney World a year and a half ago, was kind of when I started really cueing into, okay, I need to say left or right versus just that way, because that way doesn't help unless she's specifically looking at me, which when we're walking through a crowd, she's not.
Yes, and like when we're in situations like that, like it's kind of like, it's almost like a blinker system. Like you're like, okay, we're turning that way, you know, we're turning left, we're going, you know, because it's kind of like we're about to go that way, and so I'm telling you now because I'm going to start going that direction and it's going to be cutting across you, and so you're going to be confused, like all this is being said with the simple phrase of turning left. And you know, because I'll just be like do, and then otherwise, you know, she'll just like, because I don't realize that she's starting to walk this way because I'm not seeing her in my peripheral, because if we're walking next to each other, then it's just kind of like, and it's like, oh, you know, and then I'm like, how rude, you cut me off. I'm notorious for cutting people off. Or I disappeared
behind her, and then she's like, where'd she go?
Yes, like, she does this.
I'm just...
She stops. Like, I'm walking, and I'm just like, do, and I stop, because I'm in the middle, like, I'm talking. I'm actively talking, and I'm walking, and all of a sudden I get this feeling that she is no longer with me, and I stop and turn around. She's nowhere to be seen, and I'm like, I have learned to just stand there and wait, because eventually she will come back around. Because she has stopped to take a picture or stopped to look at something or something like that. And it's only for a moment, but it's still always very funny because I don't realize she has stopped walking there.
And usually I can still see you.
Yeah, I can't see her, but she can see me.
I will stop, but I will just kind of make sure that I'm watching her so that I can catch up. Yeah, trying to find each other in the store or wherever can be interesting sometimes. I can see her way over there, but she can't see me, or what was it the other day? Oh, that was different. I showed up in a different car than usual, and you right past me. And
yeah. Now that's another interesting thing, is being in the car, because I had a friend that her and I were all the time together and stuff, and we always would like, cause you know, we're sitting in the car like this, and we're not like, I don't necessarily look at you when we're in the car. Like, you don't look at each other when you're driving because you're not looking at me, and so like, you know, we're just whatever. But like, she was notorious for, I don't even know what she was doing, but she would do things, and then all of a sudden she'd be like, I forget you can't see me, and I'm like, what are you talking? And I'd just be like, what happened? And I don't know if she was trying to get my attention, if she was trying to hand me something, if she was pointing at something. I don't know. I think we just always stopped at the fact that, like, I never saw whatever it was, and she'd be like, oh, I keep forgetting you can't see. And I'm like, I don't know.
She never really explained what she was...
I don't know if we just would get sidetracked at that point and then never go back to whatever it was she was trying to do. But is there anything that you notice with, like, peripheral vision in something like that, like not being able, me not seeing you in my peripheral? Because like, it makes sense if I'm behind you, I mean if you're behind me, that I wouldn't see what you're doing, or you being way ahead of me. But if you're like right here next to me, you might assume that I would see you because I'm actually close enough. But then if I'm not looking all the way at you, I might not see whatever you might be doing to the side. I don't know if you've ever encountered something like that.
Maybe a similar kind of situation with the other friend, where I'll be like trying to describe how tall something was, and because you're not looking straight at me, I'm just like, it was about this tall. And I just have to, try again, say it all over again as if I hadn't already been doing that for 5 seconds. One other thing, I think under the kind of like the social aspect of albinism amongst other people is sometimes other people have asked me, what can you see? Or I remember one time we were at someone's house and somebody asked me, so she's legally blind, what exactly can she see? What can she not see? So I'm like, okay, so she could probably tell that there are words up on the wall or something up on the wall, but probably not read them, I don't think. But maybe she could. I don't think she could. It depends on how close she was.
That is interesting, because I was getting ready to ask you, like, how, if somebody asked you how, if you had to describe how I saw or what I could see, what would you say? So it's interesting. Other interesting aspects would be the lighting in the room. We've already talked about how I like low lights. What are your perspectives of being friends with somebody so light sensitive?
I typically like a little bit more light than she does. Sometimes I'm okay with the light level. It depends on what I'm doing. If we're just having a conversation or whatever, hanging out, eating, it doesn't really bother me. It can be pretty dim. It's fine. If I'm trying to read something, so like if we're trying to like cut things out for some projects, we've done some projects where we've had to do cutting or look at what we're doing to see, did this print right? That kind of thing. I need some more light. And so I'm like, okay, Jai, I have to have some light in here. I need more light. One of the previous places she lived, it was in a basement. It was a basement apartment. And being light sensitive, she had the windows covered up with blankets and curtains and pretty much no light coming in. And particularly if it was a sunny day out, I'd have my sunglasses on. It's real bright and sunny. It's wonderful. I come to visit and I walk in and I'm like, okay, hang on a second, because I have to probably put things down. I'm carrying things often. To put things down and take off my sunglasses, and I'm like, okay, now I can see.
I mean, to be fair, I have that problem too. When you first come in from outside, like, your eyes have to adjust, things like that. So, I mean, but then once I'm inside, I'm like, one light, pching.
On the other hand, sometimes I think you like your phone screen a little bit brighter. Or my phone, like I'll keep my phone screen, if I'm just inside, I'll keep it pretty dim. And I'll go to show her something and she's like, I need the light up. So sometimes you need more light on the phone.
Well, see, it's a contrast thing.
Yeah.
Depending on how bright it is around me, if the screen is dimmer than around me, then I can't see very well. So it's like it has to be just bright enough. Because, like, I will have my phone, like, when I get into a dark space, I have to turn it way down. And sometimes it's actually too bright. Like, sometimes I am legitimately, like, I legitimately sometimes look around my apartment and I kind of chuckle at myself. Because I am not even exaggerating when I tell you, those lights right there in the corner, that's it. That's all I have on the majority of the day. If I go in the kitchen to do something, I'll turn the lamp on that's in the kitchen. And depending on what it is and what time of day, those curtains are shut and it's still enough light for me to see generally what I'm doing in there. Unless I'm, like, if I was cooking or something like that, I would need a little bit more light. And part of that is because I work on my computer most of the time. So if I'm on my computer, I don't need that much light. But even still, like, I putzy around here doing stuff. And, I mean, the other day I was video chatting with somebody and I just started laughing because I was like, there's literally no lights on in my house right now and I'm perfectly content with that. Like, I was over there making my coffee, doing my thing, and I'm like, I like stopped and like, because I hadn't turned those lights on yet, and I just was like, there's literally no lights on in my house. Like,
you do have some light coming in around the curtain.
Yeah.
So it's not completely...
Yeah, it's not completely dark. But I don't know if the camera would be able to really show, because the camera's going to auto correct, try to auto adjust for any kind of light. So I've not really been able to capture the light per se, or lack thereof, but that's okay. Just be in your house with whatever's going on, turn all the lights off, and just leave a little bit of, just a little bit of space in your curtains, just a little bit, not too much. And that's what I do. I just...
Basically. One thing I would suggest, if you know someone with albinism, is giving verbal, communicating verbally as opposed to gestures. So, like we mentioned earlier, we need to go right, we need to go left, straight ahead.
Yes or no.
Yes or no, I'm over here. Waving to the person, unless they're already looking your way and they're kind of expecting you.
And then even that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, you're better off being like, hi, or hello, or I'm over here, something like that. So verbal communication is very important. Another thing is going in new places.
Oh, yes.
Where you're not familiar. If your friend, if your person has depth perception issues, making verbal note of things like curbs or wires across the path, or whatever uneven ground, that seems to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
even stuff like ramps down,
yeah,
which people don't think about because it's not a step,
right.
But I can't see that it's going to be all of a sudden declining, and I'll be like, whoop, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Also, something you've mentioned is, if it's a new place, you prefer to follow.
Mm-hmm.
As with all of the other things, I'm not 100% successful on all of these. Sometimes I still forget and I nod my head. and she has to wait. I'm like, oh, that's right. No. Or I'll forget and I naturally follow rather than lead. I feel like. So often I will follow you,
mm-hmm.
unless I remember that, okay, this is not a place we usually go, so let me at least be next to you, if
right.
not in front. Sometimes I notice you hesitate, kind of. I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's like this moment of awkward, like we're both like, because I'm like, inside I'm thinking, no, I'm going to let you go first this time so I can follow you. And you're just kind of like doing your normal thing and expecting me to just be like, do. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I try to be polite, let the other person go first. But that doesn't work out so well in our situation as much. To eat in a restaurant or other setting where there are a lot of windows. Let your albino friend sit with her back to the window or other major light source. Keep in mind of the lighting and let them choose which side of the bench they want to sit on.
So I hope this just gives you a little perspective of the outsider's view of albinism. If you have albinism and you maybe kind of wish that people could understand certain aspects about your situation. If you are maybe a friend of a person with albinism and you also help them with a lot of things, and you either have questions of how could you help your friend a little bit more, or maybe there's things that you have done that maybe you think would help other seeing eye people help their friends a little bit more. Whatever the case is, and for whatever visual impairment, it's not necessarily just albinism related, legal blindness or visual impairment, just whatever the visual impairment is, just go ahead and leave those down in the comments below, and stay tuned for more blind perspectives.